Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we are back for another edition of the EKN Debrief, bringing them back to you here this week. Of course, yesterday, David Cole and I, Rob Howden, sat down to talk about the Super Deck Shootout at Speed Sports Racing Park. Well, today, episode number 70, Wednesday, October the 8th, 2020, and the event that David's going to be giving us his review on the Karts North America Grand Nationals 4 from Newcastle Motorsports Park at Newcastle, Indiana. Of course, that major event keeps getting bigger and bigger, and David's going to give us his full insight into what happened last weekend at Newcastle. This week's show is being presented by Briggs Racing. Briggs & Stratton is powering Operation Grassroots around the world. No other engine manufacturer is getting new and returning drivers to the kart track like the Briggs 206. The out-of-the-box performance of the Briggs 206 provides the most fun, excitement, and reliability of any karting engine on the global market. Learn more about the 206 engine and the history behind Briggs & Stratton's century-long commitment to motorsports at www.briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing, what powers you? All right, David Coleman, you're doing the heavy lifting on this one here. You were trackside throughout the entire CKN NA Grand Nationals this year. You also got a chance to do some driving as well. Had a great qualifying run. We'll talk more about that later. But off you go. Let's get things underway with this edition of the Debrief.
Yeah, fourth edition of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals, as you said, and it's just one of those events. You know, it's one of those that you just want to be a part of. This year, we saw obviously an increase in numbers, despite the fact that the U.S.-Canadian border is closed. A large majority of the racers last year were from Canada. This year, obviously, all the racers were from the United States due to the COVID-19 pandemic that's still ongoing. But an increase in numbers, which we knew was going to happen. But, obviously we were hoping for bigger numbers this year, but really in terms of the fact of how 2020 has gone, it was great to see big numbers there. But everybody joining at the Newcastle Motorsports Park, October 2nd through the 4th. Your typical October weather, I guess, for the state of Indiana.
Yeah, right.
Nothing too warm. The sun was out Friday and Saturday, pretty, dry days, both days. A little cold in the morning, obviously, especially more so Saturday, with the track a little bit damp from some, evening coldness and frost a little bit on the racetrack. But all in all the action Friday and Saturday were on dry Vega tires, practice and qualifying on Friday, and then 3 rounds of heat races on Saturday, all into dry. We had some LCQs done in the dry Sunday morning before the rains finally did come down as the main events began. Forcing 4 of the 6 finals on wet tires before transitioning back to dry tires for the final 2 main events. The Kid Karts actually were scheduled to race Sunday, but because of the rain forecasted, all the competitors came to the program, and they were able to move their main event to the end of the day on Saturday, so they were able to get their race in because according to CKNA rules, Kid Karts are not allowed to race in the wet. So that was something that was looked at last year. They kind of had, Sunday you were there. Rain came down, and thankfully their race came up and the track was dry, so they were able to get out on the racetrack. But the competitors don't want to take a chance this year, and everybody was on board with moving their main event to the end of the day on Saturday.
Yeah, and all in all, David, as we do in our these debrief podcasts, we go through the numbers, and as you said, really impressive. Last year 281 drivers, or entries rather, 281 entries, because there is a number of people that do double duty. 281 last year, 319 this year. I think when we did the Outlap preview podcast, we're at 295 or 298, so a solid walk up as well of over 20 drivers walking up, and just good numbers across the category. And I think the cool factor is 319 entries and 7 classes. That's one of the things you and I really like is that really focused class structure. And yeah, numbers strong, essentially growth in almost every category.
Yeah, it is a focused class structure. One of the things we keep talking about is how weights are way too high in 4-cycle racing. And, the addition of the CIK light category brings the total to 7 because of the removal of the open categories that they had last year. But the CIK Light provides that opportunity for those lighter drivers, those smaller drivers that don't have to add on 90 pounds of weight to make the medium category. So they're only putting on 60 pounds instead. But still, weights are just way too high. And hopefully we'll be able to get that situated as we move forward with the Briggs & Stratton 206 programs around the country. But all in all, a condensed, it gives plenty of opportunities for people to in the senior and masters, at least age groups, to run multiple categories. A handful of drivers were able to do that and be competitive in both categories. But the sportsman category is a great division. Featuring what we now see is micro and mini, and they're all running together. So it was a great combination of that with the sportsman and of course junior. Both those categories running LCQs this year. We'll get a little bit more into that, but numbers wise, as we said, we were expecting more. We were hoping 350. I think that was kind of the target when we left last year. We knew we were going to get over 300. But, you add in about, 50 to 70 entries from Canada that get you over that 350 mark. So I think 400 now is the goal for 2021.
You think about all the people that are on the north side of the border that were all planning on coming down. Trevor Wickens and the Prime Power team with PSL came down last year. And they were planning on coming down again. And I think that would have been the start of would have been a roll. And I think 350 would have been easy, 360, 370 potential as well. The only category that really didn't have the huge numbers was Kid Kart. They had 14 last year, 9 this year. Sportsman went from 41 to 46. Every other category had over 40 carts, which is, numbers breed numbers. We always talk about that. This is a major event because people keep coming. There was 52 in the junior category, 50 drivers in the CIK light class, David, as you said, which I think was great. 78 in total in CIK medium, actually 7 more than last year. 78 drivers. That's awesome. Could get as high as 100 next year. 40 drivers in heavy and 44, David, in the CIK Masters class. That must have felt pretty good being on a grid with 44 carts.
Yeah, it was. I didn't really pay attention to what was really behind me most of the time. I was kind of focused more on what was in front. But it did. Yeah, we, for practice, obviously it was a full grid. I mean, we were up, it wasn't like everybody was sitting in the back of the grid like you see in sportsmen and juniors and seniors. Although I did go to the back just to make sure I tried and get some clear racetrack. But yeah, it was a busy racetrack in the Masters category for practice.
Great numbers, as David said, 319 in total for the Grand Nationals 4. Time to get into the paddock pass, folks. When we get back from this quick break, David Cole will give us some of an update of some of the stuff that happened event-wise, paddock-wise. Stay with us. More to come here on the EKN Radio Network. Experience and passion. That's what led to the launch of AMAX Racing. Owner Charles Maxwell began AMAX Racing in 2015, expanding the operation in 2019 with a focus on driver development for drivers of all age groups and backgrounds. From top-level drivers to grassroots racers or families looking for a team that will help them achieve their goals, AMAX Racing can guide you with the absolute best trackside service at affordable prices. No matter the chassis, AMAX Racing welcomes you and has the experience to put you on the top of the podium. You can join the AMAX Racing family at the WK Manufacturers Cup Series, Route 66 Sprint Series, and local events around the Indianapolis area. The operation is also set to compete at the Rock the Rio and SCUSA Super Nationals later this season. For more information, contact them at 317-437-5886 or find them on Facebook. AMAX Racing, all of your karting needs under 110. Acceleration Kart Racing is your first and only stop on the internet for karts, parts, and safety gear to get you on the track. ShopAKRA.com offers a great selection of karting equipment on a user-friendly website. Acceleration Kart Racing has aligned itself with many of the top manufacturers and distributors in the sport to ensure that all the latest equipment is available to you, the consumer. With customer support available 6 days a week, you can be confident about getting the right parts at the right price. Be sure to visit shopakr.com today or stop by their headquarters in Las Vegas. Also, follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest specials, clearance items, and new products. Welcome back to episode 70 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us his full review of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals 4, fourth edition of this growing event at Newcastle Motorsports Park. We'll jump now into the Paddock Pass, as we always do in these debrief podcasts. Paddock Pass today presented by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. If you want to improve your results, it's time for professional instruction and coaching at the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. Located at the state-of-the-art Speed Sports Racing Park just north of Houston, the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy offers custom coaching programs for newcomers and experienced racers alike. Train with a champion with over 30 years of racing experience to get proven results. Get ready for the big races by training with the best. Reserve your dates now by calling 866-607-RACE. That's 866-607-7223. All right, David, let's jump here into the Paddock Pass. Give us some of the notes on the event itself, competition, what we saw in the paddock. Yeah, I know you got lots to talk about.
Well, as we mentioned earlier by the numbers, it was a record turnout, and the format changed for those larger categories, including CIK Medium, Sportsman, and Junior. CIK Medium actually ran the flight heat race format with the A, B, C, D split up after qualifying. This year, Sportsman and Junior were added to that split to kind of help, make sure some of the heat races were less active, shall we say, in terms of incidents and stuff like that. And I think for the Sportsman and Junior categories, it certainly helped. Gave them a different, not a lot of racers are used to this type of format with the heat flights. So it gave them a little bit of something new to experience. Obviously, the majority of the CIK medium drivers have been part of it. If they were at the event last year, or a national racer similar to SCUSA or other events that have done this before. So the only thing it does is it makes the day a little bit longer. As we saw, putting all 3 rounds of heat races in on Saturday. So, if we keep talking about larger numbers and, the possibility of more entries in each of the categories, so we could see maybe a change in that. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, but if, I keep talking to Steve Vermeer and he wants 700, down the road. Wow. I'm like, well, we can't get all that done in 3 days. And that's obviously something that's going to have to be looked at. Even 400, it may have the possibility of expanding to another day, just so that way, because again, late September, early October makes for shorter days in terms of daylight. And it's not exactly the warmest days. So something that's going to be looked at as we move into the 2021 edition next year. If categories are going to be split like this again, and just in terms of what classes are going to be offered again, I would think that next year the categories are going to stay the same. Looking at the numbers and the way they unfolded.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and you're right. If you get to 400, if you get to 450 and you start having to do these split flight heat races more and more, they're probably going to have to move to Thursday practice, Friday qualify, even Thursday afternoon qualifying, Friday heat races, Saturday heat races, and the mains on Sunday again. Listen, we've seen that happen before. It's, the Super Nationals, SCUSA Super Nationals is of course a really good example of what you do when you have 500 entries, between 400 and 500. So it'd be interesting to see how that shakes down in the future. David, also, the cool factor is that this race has become the top essentially the top 4-cycle race in the country, the 4-cycle only race in the country. And to that end, it attracted all the big dogs in terms of 4-cycle racing as well. I know that you've got a list of guys you want to talk about, but Briggs and Stratton first and foremost. Obviously, a lot going on at Briggs and Stratton with the restructuring and the purchase, but great to see them trackside, kind of speaking with their actions that they're here for the long run.
Yeah, the Briggs and Stratton racing side of the business seems to be continuing, moving on as it has been, and really, focusing on making sure that racers understand that they're here for the future. And we had that during the beginning of the COVID-19. They had the mascot challenge. So now they have the Briggzilla mascot that they're featuring on a lot of marketing programs, and actually had some apparel and some other accessories featuring the Briggzilla mascot, and along with all the other Briggs and Stratton products that such as generators and other products that they feature in addition to the racing engines. So it was great to see Briggs and Stratton on hand there again, providing support for the event, and of course talking to the many different Briggs racers that were there from around the country, and getting feedback on the engine and obviously the Briggs and Stratton weekly racing series, which will be wrapping up here in the next week or two as well. So just a great time for them to get face to face with many of the racers from around the country that were there at the Grand Nationals.
Hey, listen, when are we going to see like a full-size Briggzilla mascot, like a football mascot?
I was actually talking to them about when are they going to get its own Instagram account, because
that's a really good idea.
You see a lot of people with dog Instagram accounts, and I was like, hey, why don't we have a Briggzilla Instagram account? And so I think that kind of goes along with having a mascot, full size mascot. So that might be something that we need to work with Briggs there.
David, if you don't want to race next year, you could be Briggzilla.
Well, I still have to work, Rob.
That's true.
You obviously need help, as much help as possible when you're trying to do live broadcasts.
I was thinking kind of a side hustle for you.
Well, I appreciate that. I think my son's large enough to be able to do that now. So maybe if he comes down next year, he'll gladly take $100 a day pay, $100 a day pay for that to stand around in a Briggzilla costume. He loves dinosaurs. We were just watching Jurassic Park animation last night.
Listen,
so
I do like the idea of the Instagram account, maybe an Instagram and Twitter account. I think that would be really cool.
Well, yeah, because I talked to them. I'm like, there's no Briggs and Stratton Racing Instagram account. We got to get on this because they have the Facebook account. And I'm like, maybe we just focus solely on the mascot and work with that. So we'll see. Dan's a marketing guy, so we'll see if he's able to come up with something.
David, obviously I was down in Texas when you guys were in Newcastle and followed along with live timing as I could and watching some updates. But in watching all the people that I follow, of course, the teams and the people in the industry I follow on my social media feeds, man, it just seems like all the big dogs in 4-cycle racing, and even many of those in 2-cycle racing were there as well. I know that in following guys, the paddock was packed with all the big dogs. It was great.
Yeah, a lot of major teams were there taking part in the event, including, as you said, 2-cycle and those who are mainly focused 4-cycle. Looking at it from the 2-cycle side of things, Amax Racing was there for their first time at the Grand Nationals in their home state. Had a number of customers coming up to them throughout the weekend that were outside the tent, just taking in what they're able to offer. Nitro Kart had a massive tent there with many racers. Those in the cadet, those in the lefty kart, the lefty chassis for Briggs and Stratton Racing, both for senior, junior, and cadets. So a lot of karts there with the engines on the left side. It was quite interesting to see, and we'll talk more about the Nitro Kart later. Of course, Margay, one of the stalwarts of American karting and especially 4-cycle racing, had a tent there with drivers both on the Brava and the Ignite. So Brava and Ignite karts under the tent. VLR, of course, was there. They're a major supporter of the Grand Nationals. So RLV with the VLR chassis was there Another American brand with Coyote was there with a number of their racers. Some of the new programs, including the Noah Stark Engine Works, had a good tent with like drivers like Race Liberante and some other drivers in there that were towards the front all weekend long. MGM had their big crew there from all over the country, taking up a big camping ground area in the grass area. Had a chili contest Saturday night, along with a bonfire. So they were enjoying their times. And again, more teams, including, Kart Sport North America was actually there with Eric Jones and Jacob Donald, the accounting guru that they have there now. Both drivers in the seat, but just them two in one of the Newcastle garages. So they were kind of tucked away from where anybody could see them, but everybody saw them once they hit the racetrack.
Nice. Let's talk about the racing itself. Obviously, you're going to jump into the race report after our next break, but overall, how was the racing? You were able to be out there yourself in the midst of it. What was the racing like? How were the starts? How did the things overall, go on the track itself?
Yeah, I think the starts were the major issue. If you were to kind of look at how the event unfolded, we saw the majority of the wrecks we saw were at the start. We had a number of incidents, including a couple red flags that were due to start. And it's the thing about the Briggs racing, because everybody wants to be so tight. But I just think it's a combination of the drivers not doing what they should be doing, and a combination of the officials not enforcing what they should be enforcing. Okay. They had an area where they wanted the drivers to punch off, and I can tell you there wasn't one race that punched off in that punch off. It was way further before that punch off was even close to the field. Okay. So we had a number of fast starts, and then I think that was mainly the problem with the starts, because you're trying to barrel 40 some karts. Now, mind you, this is just the heat races for such as CIK medium, CIK light, or CIK heavy. You're trying to get 40 karts into turn one, and if you're punching off way too early and they're coming in too fast, you have a big difference of speed between the front of the field and the rear of the field. So
yeah, and I know last year, Dave, when we were there, I was watching some guys make dive bomb moves into one at the starts, thinking they were going to try to get spots, and just like I gained at least 2 or 3 spots every race because guys were wrecking each other. They were just like diving up the inside and taking each other out, and guys would go off the right side.
Ironically, Masters was good all weekend long. We didn't have any major issues. The Sportsman and Junior, I think, with their smaller heat races, all of those starts went off without any major issues. A couple spins here and there. You're always going to have that, and there's no doubt about that. But when you have drivers at the front within the first 2 or 3 rows getting together and spinning around in a field of 40 to 50 karts, you're going to have issues, and that was really what the major problem was throughout the weekend. There wasn't too much stupid moves throughout the racing part of it. I mean, there was obviously a few moves here and there that were not smart and were not good, and there were obviously some questionable calls that were made throughout the race. But I think the majority of it was the starts, and I think we went through this, I think, with Superkarts USA, and the fact that nobody's gapping each other as during the pace lap as you're coming to the green. So that when karts are bumper to bumper through the corners, there's nowhere to go, except for bumping the guy in front of you as you're getting bumped from the guy behind you. And so I think that's part of the issue. And again, if a kart goes off and drops a wheel and spins backwards in front of the entire field, there's nothing much you can do for that. So I think spacing in the at the starts, they weren't using the lanes. They were not using the tram lines. As they were painted on the racetrack. I think that might help a little bit more, but also space. So basically it boils down to spacing and a better punch off area. We went down on the pace laps. We went down to the I-70 corner, which wasn't part of the racetrack, as you know, because we used the Monza corner with the cut through. So I-70 wasn't part of the racetrack, but we would go down to I-70 for the pace lap and come down the long back I-70 straight to the green flag. And I think that was just way too long. I understand the idea of it was to make sure everybody got straight before the green flag was waved, But I think that also made the front row and the drivers more anxious because it's such a long straight down to get to the green flag.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, I agree with you. That makes sense. What about the racing itself?
So, like I said, racing overall was pretty good. I mean, a few bonehead moves here and there, but you're going to get that when you have 300 entries. A few questionable calls that were made throughout the weekend. You're going to get that as well too. But overall, like I said, I think the racing was good aside from the starts. Pretty clean racing, especially in the main events. I didn't see really any issues. Even in the wet with any rough driving or that. Or to that nature, but again, I just think we need to look at getting the starts better, getting them slower down. Some pole sitters did the right thing and didn't do it, but again, it was just that was the most inconsistent I think of the event was the starting.
There you go. All right, folks, that's the Paddock Pass again, brought to you by the Alan Rudolph Racing Academy. When we get back after this break, it's time to jump into the race report. We'll talk about CIK Medium, CIK Light. That'll be the first two categories that we hit on. So stay with us. We'll be back with the debrief on the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals.
You want the best? You just got to roll with the best. Streeter Superstands. This is Jeff Wessel from StreeterSuperstands.com. You wouldn't put subpar parts on your racing cart, so why put that cherished ride of yours on anything but karting's #1 lifts and stands, Streeter Superstands. Streeter is the original and genuine manufacturer of the second-to-none Bigfoot rolling stands, stackers, uprights, and industry-leading Superlift. We also manufacture and sell the largest and always growing roster of trailer and shop accessories like tire, engine and jug racks, cabinets, spray can trays, bead breakers, and tons more to outfit any size trailer, team, and budget. Streeter Superstands has over 30 continuous years of experience. We're kart racers just like you and know that the Streeter name represents the absolute best in stands, lifts, and accessories for karting enthusiasts worldwide. Durability, affordability, unmatched quality, and customer service, that's what sets us apart from the rest. Check us out now at StreeterSuperstands.com. Roll with the best, StreeterSuperstands.com.
If you've seen it on track, it's certainly caught your eye. It's the Nitro Lefty Briggs chassis. Fresh off a dominating performance at the 2019 Cup Kart North America Grand Nationals at Newcastle Motorsports Park last November, drivers stunned with their new Nitro Lefty chassis. It's certainly a different approach with many benefits. The American-made Nitro Lefty is designed for the Briggs LO206 class with a left side mounted engine for better weight distribution. This kart features easy access clutch maintenance, the ability to run one-piece gears for better chain runout, and MCP brakes with a lightweight brake rotor. The 2020 Nitro Lefty Briggs is available in cadet and full-size frames.
The Nitro Lefty responds to changes just like our two-cycle chassis. It's enabled my son to win big races and championships all across the country.
Back at it, ready to jump in here to the race report on this 70th edition of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us his review of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals from Newcastle Motorsports Park last weekend. Our race report segment brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. Franklin Motorsports is a leader in the karting industry with over 50 years of combined karting experience, and they can provide you with everything you need to go racing. With a large online product selection, select track support events, and a wide variety of shop services, Franklin Motorsports is your complete karting source. They specialize in IAME engines, tilt seats, and of course, their championship-winning Merlin chassis. They've been supplying racers with start-to-finish support at race events for years, from helping provide a helping hand at a weekday test outing or at a club event to full arrive and drive packages at the highest level of karting competition. For all things karting, visit franklincart.com. All right, David, a couple of heavy hitter classes to get things underway here with the race report. You'll start with CIK Medium, then you'll go CIK Light. Let's go with the medium category. And the headline you have, Donald becomes Briggs fan with big victory.
It was an interesting start, let's say, for the Kart Sport North America accountant and former racer, obviously still current racer, Jake Donald, one of the longtime top drivers over the last decade in tag competition. But yeah, it was an interesting weekend in the medium category. as you had a number of drivers that appeared to be in contention throughout the weekend. It all began with Hayden Jones, the young 15-year-old out of the Nitro Kart tent in the lefty chassis, posting fast lap of qualifying. And an interesting note in qualifying, the top 7 were separated by less than 1/10 of a second. So we're talking, I think, 900ths of a second from first to 7th. Nice. It was a pretty tight field. And so, again, when you have that tight field, not a lot of room for error. And one of the errors we did see, though, was in the opening heat race. Hayden Jones started on the pole position with Mick Gabriel on the outside. Gabriel dropped a wheel on the exit of the opening corner, sent everybody shuffling around him. The event continued on. The race continued on, though, but with Jones scoring the provisional victory, but was penalized for what was deemed contact with Mick Gabriel at the start of the race. Looking at some of the videos and stuff like that, it just seemed to be like Gabriel went off the track on his own. But the call was made, and Jones was penalized to the end of the field. So ended up winning that heat race. And with the progressive heat races, had to start the second heat race from the tail of the field. So it essentially took Hayden Jones out of the competition early with that call. Otherwise, Eric Jones was named the winner in that heat race, with Gary Lawson winning the C versus D. Gary Lawson coming in as a former winner at the Grand Nationals in 2018. Donald came through driving the Comet Eagle chassis, winning the second heat, along with Eric Jones winning the B versus D heat race. So Kart Sport North America had both heat race wins in that round. And then in the third heat, Donald was able to score the victory, his second in the A versus D heat race. The third one, which was a little bit, the B versus C, was a little bit, saw some contact at the beginning of the race, including Eric Jones. So it kind of took Eric Jones away from winning 3 heat races, as it pushed him to the tail of the field with a little bit of a banged up kart. But David Kalb went on to win that one. Once the points were all tabulated, Donald was able to secure the pole position, with Gary Lawson starting outside of row 1. Ian Quinn aboard the Charles Leclerc chassis with Ashley Rojero on the Nitro Kart lefty, filling out row 2, with Eric Jones there sitting 5th. So the 2 wins and the 20th position earned him a fifth starting spot for the main event for CIK Medium. The main event was pretty entertaining for the 14 laps. Donald jumped out to the lead from the pole position. Eric Jones attempted to make it a Kart Sport 1-2, but the other drivers had other things in mind and kind of broke up their grouping. And Jones was actually shuffled back with some contact as they were dicing it out for the second position. And then Jones eventually retired, so it took him out of the race. Garrett Adams, though, was charging through from the 9th position and was able to lead a second group to be able to get up to Donald and Gary Lawson, who were able to kind of break away. And then once Adams got up there, he got behind Donald, was able to push those 2 away as Lawson fell back to 3rd and was kind of in a fight of his own. Adams took over the lead with a few laps remaining. And on the white flag, Donald was able to take the lead over in the cell tower corner, the hairpin far away from the rest from the paddock. And Adams attempted and tried to find a way past and waited maybe possibly a little bit too long, trying for the drag race to the line, and came up just short, 73 thousandths of a second short, as Jacob Donald became a new Briggs & Stratton fan with the big victory, scoring the win over Garrett Adams. As I said, Lawson was in a battle of his own. He got shuffled back to 6th as Ashley Rojero moved up to 3rd, Ian Quinn up to 4th, and David Kalb up to 5th.
David, just from my knowledge, because I didn't actually have a look, was the start finish around the first corner, or did they do the start finish on the straightaway?
No, on the straightaway, as it was before.
Yep. Yeah, okay. All right. Let's go to CIK Light now. Of course, first off, congratulations to to Jacob Donald for that race win. Good for him, and good to see him out there racing with the Karts North America boys. Let's go into CIK Light now. The headline: Warren named winner following post-race penalties. That's always interesting. Give us the insight on that throughout this review.
Yeah, the CIK Light, a new category for 2020 and at the Grand Nationals. So it was everybody was gunning to be the inaugural winner. As we talked about, Mick Gabriel was quick. He's a two-time Champions Cup champion or title winner in 2020, winning the medium and light divisions this year. Gabriel was the quickest in qualifying, was able to start on the pole position. Essentially, it was him and Eric Jones that were battling out front through the heat races. Gabriel won the opening heat race with Jones coming through for the victory in the final two heat races. That gave Jones the pole position for the main event, with Gabriel starting on the outside of the front row. Rain came down, as we said earlier, for the main events. CIK Light, I believe, was the third or fourth. Well, either way, it was contested on, I think it was the third. It was still on wet Vega tires. And so a little bit of shuffling there at the main event, in which included Eric Jones. Eric Jones was spun around on the opening lap in the double right-hand corners, essentially dropping him down outside the top 30. That kind of left the front group shuffling for the lead, including Gabriel, Vasquez, and a few others. But it was actually Ian Quinn who started 23rd aboard a Tony Kart, shuffled his way, fought his way through, got up towards the lead group, and essentially took over the lead on lap 8. And then essentially from there just drove away to what was the provisional win ahead of three other drivers. Unfortunately, a penalty came through down on Ian Quinn for contact with Emily DeMaster earlier in the race. I think it was around lap 4 or 5 as he was kind of fighting his way forward. So she actually retired on the white flag lap. He was given a penalty to finish behind her, which essentially put him down to the 29th position. So, so that again is a questionable call, because she lost maybe one position during the contact, but yet he was penalized 28 positions for the contact. So again, that's one of the things I asked Ian. He said, yes, I committed the penalty. So he doesn't argue the fact that he did commit the penalty, but I think they have to kind of maybe look at this type of scenario where, okay, if the penalty happened here and the person only lost one position, maybe the penalty should be 1 to 3 positions rather than 28 positions. So just kind of looking at it long-term.
Over the years, if that driver had Emily gone out of the race, then, been taken out with the contact, then the driver finished behind them, right? That's something we've always said.
Yes, during the actual penalty, yes.
Yeah.
But because she retired after the penalty, many, many laps after the penalty. And again, the other thing too is they gave him the sportsmanship flag. That was another thing I forgot to mention in the paddock thing. And one of the things I wanted to talk about in the paddock, they talked about giving space, and that if a driver is outside of you, it's still not your corner. And so there was a little bit of questioning about that, because I kind of understand their reasoning, but I don't, in the fact that majority of racers are told, if you're to the apex before the other driver, it's your corner, and thus you're allowed to continue through the racing line. Well, they weren't really enforcing that, because if they were talking about if you push somebody offline, you were going to get a penalty. So I'm not quite sure if that's what exactly happened here, but he was given the sportsmanship flag. But because she was so far behind him when he was giving it, when he was given the flag, he ignored it because he didn't want to get off the pace and have to give up, nearly, half a straightaway to give her back the position.
Oh, by sportsmanship flag, you mean to give the position back? Okay.
Yes, because they were doing that during the races. They would show you the sportsmanship flag, give you the number, that you had to allow back. And if you watch, Bryce Merceberger was actually leading, was given the sportsmanship flag, pulled over to allow Colin Warren to move back ahead of him, because I guess some contact happened between them two. And so you could see that happening, but it doesn't exactly happen. It's kind of hard to happen when the driver that you need to let by is not around you. If you kind of get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I do. Interesting. That's tough.
So I understand the sportsmanship flag. I think it has a good meaning, but I think there's ways around, where it's not going to work. And I think this was one of those instances where it wasn't going to work. So I still think he should have been on the podium looking at it, from the outside in, because it should have been maybe a 1-3 position penalty. But either way, he knows he won it on the racetrack, but Colin Warren was actually named the winner after the penalty, giving VLR victory. And I think this was his third victory at the Grand Nationals. So Race Liberante ended up finishing second in the race factory. Bryce Merceberger, who I said led earlier on in the race, ended up finishing third. Then we talked about how Eric Jones spun at the opening lap, dropped about 33rd. He and Jacob Donald, who also spun in one of the opening corners, they kind of found each other about 2 or 3 laps in and started knifing their way through the field and ended up coming up all the way up to 4th and 5th, with Jones 4th and Jacob Donald 5th.
Right.
I talked to Eric Jones and he said, obviously the medium race hadn't won yet or hadn't been done yet, but he said that was probably the funnest race he had ever been in.
Really?
He said he said he couldn't remember the last time he was in a rain race. So just being out in the rain was fun, but just to be able to knife his way through nearly 30 drivers like that was a blast, he said.
That's awesome. All right, folks, with a quick break in the action, when we get back, David will give us his review of CIK Heavy and Masters, the race that he actually was in himself. Stay with us, folks. We'll get back to the race report brought to you by Franklin Motorsports here on this particular edition of the EKN Debrief. Leading Edge Motorsports is the industry answer to winning in karting. At the helm is industry veteran Greg Bell, who has orchestrated the success of many drivers dating back to the mid-1990s. Most recently, Leading Edge Motorsports and Greg Bell helped guide Danny Formel to victory at both the Rock the Rio and the SuperKarts USA Super Nationals 23. Based in Lodi, California, Leading Edge Motorsports is the Western importer for IP karting, which includes the Praga and Formula K chassis brands. Leading Edge Motorsports is already looking forward to the 2021 season, which begins with the Challenge of the Americas, the premier winter series on the West Coast under the Rock Cup USA banner. Leading Edge Motorsports is also eyeing the Florida Winter Tour and several other programs. Arrive and drive services to kart preparation and driver coaching are all available under the LEM tent throughout 2021. Greg Bell has been building racing engines for over 20 years, and he's excited with the continuing growth of his new Mega Power race motor building program. It doesn't matter what color your chassis is, choose Mega Power to get to the front. For more information, click over to leadingedgemotorsports.com and find them on Facebook. At Leading Edge Motorsports, winning never gets old. The Briggs & Stratton 206 engine is where out-of-the-box ease and outstanding consistency meet to create legendary races. Briggs & Stratton's history in motorsports dates back to when the first engines came off the assembly line in the early 1900s. Their focus on the grassroots level continues to help build generations of racers. Since 2008, the Briggs & Stratton 206 has gained a following that has the engine powering the largest fields in North American karting today. From the club level and track programs to traveling regional series and national events, Briggs & Stratton competition provides the most exciting racing in the sport. Engineered and hand-built exclusively for racing, every Briggs 206 engine is power tested and serialized before it goes in the box. Karters can take that engine straight from the box to their kart and be on the podium at the end of the race day. To learn more about the 206 engine and to find a North American dealer near you, head to briggsracing.com. Briggs & Stratton Racing. What powers you? Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode 70 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us his full review of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals for the event that took place on October 2nd to 4th at Newcastle Motorsports Park. We've already done CIK Light and CIK Medium. In this particular segment, David's going to give us a review of CIK Heavy and the CIK Masters category. David, the headline for CIK Heavy, Lawson lays down the law in Heavy.
It seemed to be a Gary Lawson show, but it wasn't a complete sweep. of the category because it was essentially a 2-driver fight all weekend long. Lawson ended up qualifying on the pole position aboard his Comet Eagle chassis, but Eric Fagan, a driver we mentioned in the outlap, Briggs and Stratton Weekly Racing Series champion aboard the MGM, we knew it was going to be quick as well. He was second, Lawson was first, and essentially those two set the stage during the heat races. Lawson ended up winning both of the opening 2 heat races by drag race to the line with Fagan in second, but Fagan was able to edge out Lawson for the 3rd heat race. However, Lawson ended up earning enough points to start the main event on the pole position with Eric Fagan on the outside of row 2. So we thought it was going to be a 2-driver fight in the main event, but Lawson was on a wet racetrack was just unstoppable, essentially laying down 1 second a lap faster than any other driver in the field, including Fagan. Wow. So in a 14-lap race, Lawson drove away to a 15.7 second advantage over Eric Fagan. So just a remarkable performance for Gary Lawson in the heavy category to become the second different winner in the second year of the category. As I said, Eric Fagan drove to a solid second place, unchallenged throughout the entire 14 lap. The fight behind them was for third with Drake Ostrom coming through with the Eagle chassis to finish third ahead of the 2-time Battle at the Brickyard winner Elmer Edmondson in the MGM, with Eli Fox putting another MGM in the top 5 for 5th.
Good solid run, and always interesting. I know that the notes here was that the Lawson, of course, on the wets, but the track was kind of drying. How much was the track drying, David, as you recall, over that session?
It was because yes, that was the 4th main event, was before Sportsman. So essentially, as the heavy class took the track, they said the remaining 2 classes are optional tires, meaning anybody could go to the dry tire. Okay, so yeah, the track was drying with every single lap that they were making. I look here, Gary Lawson's best lap was minute 20 on lap 12. So again, nearly almost a second and a half quicker than anybody else in the field at that point. So everybody's quickest lap was lap 12, lap 13, lap 14. So yeah, the track was certainly drying. And once the Sportsman carts hit the racetrack, the track was dry.
Nice. All right, let's move to the Masters class, CIK Masters, and the headline: Adkins wins first 4-cycle race in over 20 years. David, we talked about Brandon Adkins when we did the Outlap podcast, that he kind of came in to run the Masters category, and you kind of foreshadowed, you figured he was going to be in the fight.
Yeah, you look at the odds. I would have gave him a 2-1 odd to win the race. Just knowing the talent that Brandon Adkins is. Obviously, he's still racing against the senior competitors in K100 competition. So I knew he was going to be quick. He's in the cart, but you look at really the top, 15 in the Masters category. Any one of them could have won, and that kind of was the case because Atkins didn't drive away with it. He was able to secure the fast time in qualifying, but the opening heat race was challenged throughout that race, and ended up winning the race. But then the second heat got shuffled back. Mike Welsh, a 2-time winner at the event, was able to secure the win in heat 2 with Atkins in second. I believe even in heat 3, Atkins was shuffled back even more. But ended up finishing second. But Grant Zimmerman scored the win in heat 3. So Atkins wasn't able to dominate because there was a number of drivers right there, including Michael Dittmer, Welsh, Zimmerman, all right there. Jeff Scott was another driver that was right there as well too in the Ionic chassis. Jeff Scott, the Champions Cup title winner for 2020, was all right there. So from my vantage point, it was kind of interesting to watch the lead group. Atkins was able to secure the pole position through the heat race points, with Grant Zimmerman scoring the outside front row starting position. Welsh was starting in third, with Dittmer outside of him in row 2, with Jeff Scott starting 5th. As we said, the Masters was the first group out on the course every day. And as the weather forecast predicted, with the 11:40 starting time, the rain came at 11:40. And
I was actually watching that part live. Just I flicked over real quick on a commercial break from what we were doing, and could see the fact that you guys had actually went on a hold because it started the rain really hit. So
yeah, we were on the grid. It wasn't raining yet, but there were a couple drops falling. They gave us 3 minutes to choose our tires and drop the carts to be ready to go. It was a bit different than last year, because last year we knew it was raining, and we actually had the driver intros. Well, we didn't do driver intros this time because everybody was kind of scrambling on the grid, figuring out what they were going to do. I think everybody at the front had dry tires on. I think there were a few drivers in the back that didn't and put rain tires on. Once we got out on the racetrack, the rains came down even harder and essentially made the track unsafe for the majority of the competitors on the dry tires. And so before the green flag even waved, they red flagged our pace lap and gave us 20 minutes to change over to the wet setup and get us back out on the racetrack. Majority of the front runners, unlike last year, were all ready to go on rain tires. So, if you were looking to move up through the grid for guys not starting, this was not the year to do that.
What do you think about that, David? If they had actually called, if the race session you rolled out on the racetrack with an optional tire session, should they not have finished that session?
Well, it's kind of questionable because they said, okay, you have 3 minutes. Well, I mean, that's a little bit of a short call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the better idea would have been to maybe delay 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because one, they ignored the driver intros, which they said they were going to do. So it was a little chaotic, to be honest. I don't think anybody quite knew what was going on. We waited until the last minute to get away from the tent to get to the grid. And then once we got to the grid, we kind of, had the cart sit there as everybody else did on the stand. And then once they said the 3 minute thing, we were like, okay, I don't even want it. Let's not even chance it. Let's get the cart down, ready to go. So we're ready to pull out onto the racetrack. Because again, you don't know what the weather was going to do, because it wasn't really raining at the time. So, it's just that question. It really was. I mean, we could have tried it on dry tires, but I think, as it rained, it would have been pretty terrible, but it would have been great.
I feel bad for the guys that put rains on.
It would have been great for the 2 or 3 guys that actually did put rain tires on. Yes.
Yeah. So that's an interesting call. Obviously, it's the timing was perfect, a perfect storm to make it rough. Finish off the run.
So they gave us 20 minutes to change over and got back onto the grid. The race started. I think it was a fairly clean start for everybody up front. Essentially, Atkins was able to keep the lead from the pole position, and it ended up being 2-driver breakaway with he and James Perkins, who I know you mentioned him before.
Yep.
And it was funny because I said that he started I think right in front of me or two rows ahead of me. And I was like, man, we got to watch for these Florida boys out here in the rain, because I just had that feeling that he was going to be quick. And sure enough, Perkins on the Margay Ignite chassis was super quick in the wet, was able to knife his way up to the second position and challenge Atkins late in the race, but just was unable to make a move for the lead, with Atkins scoring the victory after leading all 14 laps.
Okay. Nice.
It was a good battle for third that I saw lap me during the race. Michael Dittmer was part of it. He actually ended up dropping a wheel with a few laps to go. But it was a great drive for Target Distributing's Joe I can't say his name. Why can't I say his name? DeBover. Yes, Joe DeBover. Sorry, I'm terrible at names. But anyway, the Notre Dame fan, I hate that even more. Racing under the LSR Motorsports tent aboard the CRG. He started back in the 23rd position, was able to knife his way through the rain, the early laps to get towards the front, was among those drivers fighting for the third position with Dittmer and Zimmerman. Joe was able to secure the third position from a charging Jason Rowe aboard the FA cart, as Grant Zimmerman ended up finishing in 5th in what was a close photo finish.
Do you want to talk about your race or not?
My race, yeah. Well, it was
highlight was qualifying.
The highlight was qualifying, just much as like it was last year.
Yeah, P7.
Last year qualified 11th. This year qualified 7th. So we had a fast machine without the draft. Struggled through the heat races with Racecraft. Fell to 8th and then 14th the other 2 heat races. I asked for the rain. I got the rain. Unfortunately, we didn't have the right setup. We didn't have complete air in the right rear tire, and the chain decided to skip as soon as I took off from the grid. So a loose chain, an improper setup, I think, for the conditions, and a deflated right rear tire.
And now a deflated driver as well.
Well, like I keep saying, it's just going to make me want to be there again next year to redeem myself. I tried to redeem myself from last year in the wet. It didn't happen. So now next year, I'm not asking for rain. I'm asking for dry weather all weekend long. And, hopefully I will be able to get better racecraft for 2021.
There you go. All right, folks, when we get back after this quick break, we'll come back to this race report segment brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. We'll do junior, sportsman, and kid kart, wrap things up before we take one more break to cap things off. Again, after this break, David will be back with junior.
Located in Mooresville, North Carolina, on-site at GoPro Motorplex, Kartsport North America features over 6,000 square feet of retail space. Along with being the official race team and distributor for the Kart Republic chassis, they offer full retail sales, kart service and storage, and products from the top brands in the sport, such as CZ Chain, Talon Sprockets, SKF bearings, and Prisma tire gauges. If you want to take your racing to the next level, they also offer driver training and coaching programs available trackside at GoPro Motorplex. They have a massive inventory, so head to their online store at kartsportna.com to get same-day shipping of the parts and components that you need. While you're there, check out their used section of karts, engines, parts, and accessories. Kartsport North America. Top quality products, winning brands, and professional driver development services.
History, success, family. Those are the 3 words that describe Comet Kart Sales, one of the longest tenured karting businesses in the United States. The family-owned operation is located just outside of Indianapolis, and they have provided karts, parts, and services for thousands of racers throughout their near 6 decades of business. Comet's online store features everything you need, continually adding new parts to their product line. Comet Kart Sales attends dozens of karting events every year, offering trackside service for racers and families. Karting veterans Mark Dismore Jr. and Gary Lawson provide one-on-one driver coaching and tuning assistance for each trackside customer. The engine building business, Comet Racing Engines, has won countless major events and championships over decades of karting, and they continue to offer the best trackside service in the industry. Make sure you head to CometKartSales.com or call them at 317-462-3413 to be a part of the Comet Kart Sales family today.
Welcome back to the EKN Radio Network, episode number 70 of the EKN Debrief. David Cole giving us his full review of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals 4 from Newcastle Motorsports Park. That event taking place on the opening weekend of October. David, let's jump into the junior category, and the headline, Cruz adds to stellar international resume.
The junior category was certainly entertaining because there really wasn't a driver that stood out as the favorite. You had a number of contenders that were among the front runners all weekend long, but one that was missing was a top qualifier, Violet Townsend from nearby Ravenna, Michigan, up here near me, aboard the Eagles, set fast time in qualifying. Unfortunately, she didn't race at all on Saturday as she was part of a special guest during the IndyCar race that was going on at IMS. So she was actually at Indianapolis Motor Speedway on Saturday while all the heat races were going on, thus putting her in what was now an LCQ category, forcing her to start the LCQ from the last position and ended up racing her way towards the transfer position, but ended up coming up just one position short at the checkered flag for qualifying for the main event. So again, a challenging weekend, but all in all, she got to experience her first IndyCar race, and so but just had to not challenge for the victory in the junior category on the weekend. But heat races, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, keep going. That's good.
Heat races, a number of different drivers, I said, were in contention. Logan Adams ended up winning 3 heat races. The third one was actually due to a disqualification by Carter Pryor. Pryor was removed for the B versus C heat race in Tech, thus giving Adams his third win. So that put Adams on the pole position for the main event. But he had James Overback and Brent Cruz with Nitro Kart scoring wins, along with Pryor scoring a win in the opening round of the heat races. So different drivers up front. So you had Adams and Cruz on the front row for the main event with James Overback and Danny Dazowski starting on row 2. The main event was a little bit essentially a 2-driver breakaway. Cruz was able to get out to the lead, and it was actually Camden Gruber who came through aboard the MGM to I forgot where he started. I'll have to look that up, but able to knife his way from, I think it was 6, and join Cruz up front, and those two were able to kind of get away from the rest of the group. Cruz essentially held the top position for the majority of the race, with Gruber right there on his bumper. Lap traffic kind of played a role in it, especially on the last lap, but Cruz was able to negotiate that very well, with Gruber unable to kind of capitalize, and it was Cruz that came across the line as the winner, adding to his long list of international wins that includes the IME International Final, Rotex Grand Finals, and many, many other events that he has been through here in the United States. So Cruz just adding to his resume with the victory, scoring the victory over Camden Gruber. Logan Adams was there for a little bit early on, but fell back and ended up finishing in 3rd, with Zelski finishing 4th and James Overback in 5th.
What was the weather like for this particular race, Dave?
Yeah, junior was the second category out on racetrack, so they were on a wet track, and so yes, their first session of the weekend on the wet track. You talk about the LCQ. We said Violet Townsend was one position short of transferring into the main event. The driver that did ended up beating her, Bowden Barnwell, earned that final 5th position in the LCQ to start 40th in the main event. Came from 40th on the grid to ended up finishing P8 in 14 laps. So amazing drive for Barnwell in the wet to get that many positions to finish 8th. So great drive for him.
Good for him. That's tremendous. And another big win for Brent Cruz, like you said. Let's move to the sportsman category now, and the headline: Nitro Kart sweeps sportsman led by Mayer. Sounds like a big weekend for Nitro Kart in sportsman class.
Yeah, Nitro Kart all up front throughout the majority of the weekend, and essentially earning the number 1 or the P1 position in all sessions, qualifying all 6 heat races and the main event. So I think anytime you looked up at the sportsman races, there was a gaggle of Nitro Karts up front. Ben Mayer ended up setting fast time in qualifying. It was Isaac Malcutt, the U.S. Rotex Grand Nationals Micro Max champion, setting the second quick. So you had 2 Rotex Grand National champions: Ben Mayer, the Mini Max; Isaac Malcutt, the Micro Max champion, setting qualifying laps 1-2. So it was pretty cool to see that.
Malcutt, the only guy not on a Nitro in the top 5.
Malcutt was a Kart Republic. He was one of the few up front aboard the Kart Republic. There was also a few other Kart Republics with Jace Petty and Gerke. I cannot remember his first name, but it was essentially Nitro Kart and Kart Republics up front all weekend long in the sportsman division. As I said, Nitro Kart swept all 6 heat races. Mayer ended up winning the opening round. DeLong was the big winner, though, winning 3 of his heat races. Well, Mayer only won 2. Ayrton Grimm was the other heat race winner. He was coming in as the defending champion and a 2-time winner in the category. So Grimm was actually going for a third victory in the sportsman division. DeLong ended up earning the pole position for the main event with his 3 heat race wins. Grimm starting the main event from outside the front row. Ben Mayer was slotted in third with Christopher McKeithen in the outside of row 2. Ended up being a 3-driver breakaway. DeLong, Grimm, and Mayer. Mayer essentially took over the lead with Grimm on his bumper, and those two were able to kind of push themselves away from Parker DeLong, making it a one-on-one battle between Mayer and Grimm. Essentially, Grimm kind of sat there on his bumper until the final lap. Wasn't able to quite make a move through the final circuit, and then essentially, as we see at Newcastle every year in every race, it was a drag race to the line, and Grimm came up 34,000 short at the line to earn his 3rd victory, giving Ben Mayer his first Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals victory. Parker DeLong came across the line in the 3rd position, but was disqualified in tech for using the wrong tires, had his practice tires on instead of the race tires. So that removed him from the results. That moved Spencer Conrad up to the 3rd position, with McKeithen up to 4th, and then Cade Yeager up to 5th.
All right, let's cap off our race report brought to you by Franklin Motorsports. Kid Kart, as you had said, David, in the Paddock Pass was run on Saturday evening as the last session of the day. The headline, Rossiter continues season on top with Grand Nationals victory.
Yeah, Summit Rossiter was the Champions Cup title winner for the 2020 season, so he came in as probably one of the favorites in the Kid Kart division, but Slatton Baldock.
I'd say Baldock, yeah.
Baldock. Was the top driver early on. He set fast time in qualifying and won the opening 2 heat races. The 3rd heat race saw a little bit of contact up front, kind of shuffled the order, but Kevin Ruth from Arizona ended up winning that heat race. But in the main event that was run Saturday evening, it was Rossiter that was able to knife his way up to the front and held off Slatton at the line by just 1/10 of a second as they came to the line, and giving Rossiter the Cup Karts Grand Nationals victory. Ruth ended up finishing in 3rd ahead of Jackson Stone, with Riley Jacks finishing 5th.
There you go. That's the cap. The race report for the Grand Nationals 4 of Cup Karts North America. When we get back after this break, we're going to wrap things up. We'll look at the Constructors' Championship, look at the brands that actually won races, and we'll have a quick look at the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar. Stay with us. We'll wrap things up after this break. You've heard and read about us. We are the Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. Our senior program is the best in the sport, and we have the SCUSA Pro Tour X30 Senior Championship to prove it. Our coaching staff includes 4-time SCUSA National Champion Ryan Norbert, 3-time SCUSA Supernats winner Bonner Moulton, SCUSA Pro Tour X30 Junior Champion, 2015 Rotax Grand Finals Vice Champion, and Junior Development Specialist Luke Selkin, and our hands-on owner, multi-time champion, and IKF Duffy winner Mike Rawlson. This isn't sideline coaching. We're on track, and we dogfight with you. It's like nothing you've ever experienced. You learn more and more with every single lap. Our seniors win races, like Hannah Greenmeyer at the SCUSA Winter Series opener in Florida. And they win because they've been trained, coached, and honed by our RPG staff. Hurricane Hannah is proof positive. If you're a mini driver ready to move up, or a junior driver who's done with running mid-pack, join the team that will develop your skills and take you to the podium. At the Rawlson Performance Group, we turn juniors into pros. In 2020, we'll be racing at the SCUSA Winter Series, Pro Tour and California Pro Kart Challenge, the Florida Winter Tour, and the United States Pro Kart Series, as well as the IKF Northwest region. If you want to fight for championships, or want to improve your skills and your chances to win, the answer is to call RPG at 503-260-4514. We're the Rawlson Performance Group. We race to win. Made in the USA. That's exactly what you get from Precision Karting Technologies. Based in Detroit, Michigan, PKT brings over 35 years of manufacturing experience to the sport of karting. Their passion for the sport began focusing around the Kid Kart platform. and has expanded every year with hundreds of products designed to put you on the podium. Precision Karting Technologies is known around North America for their successful line of axles, available in all age groups. PKT manufactures a number of engine products for Comer, IAME, Rock, Rotax, and the popular Briggs & Stratton 206. A wide variety of chassis components for the many brands in the sport are available through PKT, including hubs, pedal risers, skid plates, and other hardware for your kart. Axle straightening, chassis adjustments, engine service, and specific CNC machining projects are available through their Motor City headquarters. To learn more about the many products and services available from Precision Karting Technologies, head to pktaxles.com. Welcome back to the final segment of this edition of the EKN Debrief. David Cole has been kind enough to give us a full replay, a review of the Cup Karts North America Grand Nationals event from Newcastle Motorsports Park, which took place last weekend, the first weekend of October. David, let's wrap things up right now. What are your thoughts to cap off this edition of the Debrief?
Well, as we mentioned a little bit in the beginning, record turnout, and now what is expected for the 2021 edition. We had 319 entries for this year, setting a new record, eclipsing that 300 mark, which we knew was going to happen this year. Unfortunately, as we said, a number of the Canadians were unable to come down and compete. So now I think the goal, that the bar is set at a 400 entry for the 2021 edition. So that's the goal. Obviously, as I said earlier, Steve Vermeer, who's part of the Cup Karts North America, he wants 700. I don't know how we're going to get there. Obviously, we have a strong base, and I think that's one way of getting there. It's just a matter of getting everybody on the same page and that actually happening. So I think for now we set the bar at 400, and I think we continue to kind of just inch our way up more and more as the event continues on.
Well, anytime you add another 50 drivers or 100 drivers, you bring in so many different, I don't use the word problems, more challenges for the event, right? Because the minute you get to 400, 450, then you're looking at having to add Thursday. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Practice and qualifying on Thursday, heat races on Friday and Saturday, and the mains on Sunday. Well, when you do that, it kind of takes the event out of the wheelhouse of, the smaller teams that you're talking 4 or 5 hotel nights at that point. You're talking a couple days, maybe 3 days of missed work, 4 days potentially of missed work. If it's, driving there Wednesday, then you got Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday. So a lot of times once you start getting bigger, you may lose certain other drivers. So those are some of the challenges they'll deal with. To be honest, David, where they are even right now at 350 would be a really good sweet spot for this event. If they go to 400 because of interest, that's great. But anywhere between, where they are now, let's say 350 and 400, that could give them a really good sweet spot in terms of where to be for this event.
Yeah, that was my third point is what changes will come for Grand Nationals 5. Obviously, it's going to be dictated on the number of entries that are going to be part of the event. I assume we're going to be sticking with the opening weekend of October. So I think everybody can kind of pencil that in until they make the official announcement for 2021. But it seems to be it's gaining that momentum as we saw over the last 2 years, and I think with the majority, with the Canadians not coming down, I think it's kind of amplifying their want to come down here. And I hope, and I believe that'll entice some of their, teammates or friends. As you said, there was a number of drivers that just had their eyes on it since last year. So now to be 2 years out from being at the event, it's going to be more amped up, I think, for a lot of the Canadians to come down and compete.
Oh, remember too, David, that the guys out in Quebec were putting on that Can-Am shootout, right? The U.S.-American or U.S.-Canada shootout they were trying to put on in Quebec, which would have even had more excitement from the Quebec. We know there's a lot of guys from Ontario, but it would have dialed things up from Quebec. So I think you'll see, as long as the borders are open, which I'm sure they will be next year, you're going to see, I think, a really strong Canadian contingent, much stronger than we had last year.
Yeah, and again, like we said, if we do get up to that 400 mark and we start expanding the race days, racing is a passion, and me and you live it, and we're fortunate enough to do that, but we as you said, we need to understand exactly what the racers can do, And I understand the difficulties of, as you said, 5 hotel nights. But if you look at it, that's the one thing that's going on right now, the SCCA runoffs, and I really look at what that event is and what this, the Cup Karts Grand Nationals could be. It could be very similar to that type of scenario. I really believe that, because it is that one event that all these racers, they mark on their calendars, and that's their vacation race. That's their destination race. And I think that's
go back there to what the IKF Grand Nationals used to be.
Very similar, and even Daytona Kart Week was essentially, it was a 4-day event there too, because the races are spread out over 3 days. So, but yeah, IKF Grand Nationals, I think, is very similar to what the runoffs is. And they used to do it during the weekday. They used to do it, where we would start practice on Monday and race Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So that way you could be home for the weekend. That, I think that's a little, obviously being the opening weekend of October, I think that's a little harder to do because, especially for the sportsmen and kid karts and junior drivers, they're all in school. So I understand that there's a challenge in that, but I think if you start, you kind of have to introduce a lot of these racers to that format. And you kind of have to open their eyes of, hey, look, this is your one destination race. And so I think that's something that Cup Karts Grand National, or, Cup Karts North America is really going to have to start, kind of marketing that, if they indeed plan on expanding the event. They might not plan on expanding the event. So it's just how, the challenges of doing it in 3 days with more entries is going to be a challenge.
Agreed. Now, Dave, interesting, when you were going through the whole, the race report class by class, it was interesting to hear you talk about, hey, new winner. There's a lot of new winners this particular year.
Yeah, 5 different new winners for the event, for the Cup Karts Grand Nationals, with Colin Warren and Gary Lawson, the only repeat winners. Warren added to his list, making it 3 wins now at the event. This was his first, obviously, in the CIK light category, with it being the inaugural year. Gary Lawson earning his second and first in the heavy category. So yeah, it's that's the one thing about this event. We'll probably start seeing some new winners as we move along with the event. But this year was no different, with five new winners.
Let's have a look at the Constructors' Championship. What chassis brands were able to get on top of the podium?
Well, this was an interesting note, and something that, if you take Kid Kart out of it because they ran Saturday, but on Sunday, it was 3 different chassis winning 2 races. On Sunday, you had Comet Eagle winning with 2 with Gary Lawson and Jacob Donald. You had VLR winning with Brandon Atkins and Masters and Colin Warren in the light division. And then you had Nitro Kart winning the junior and sportsman divisions with Brent Cruz and Ben Mayer. And then Margay ended up winning the Kid Kart division with Summit Rossiter.
Nice. All right. A couple of American-made chassis, and all 3 of them actually American brands as well.
All 4.
All 4, pardon me. Yeah, all 4
American brands. Yeah, it's all 4 American brands, essentially.
Yeah, and 2 of them, Comet Eagle and Margay, obviously built here. I love it. Actually, is the Nitro
3,
Lefty?
Yes,
I think
the Nitro Lefty is actually built here too. So 3.
That's what I thought. Yeah, that's interesting. All right, folks, let's wrap things up with the EKN Trackside Live race calendar. We'll talk about essentially what is the final event for us for 2020 as it stands. This look at the Trackside Live race calendar brought to you by Atlanta Motorsports Park. In Las Vegas last November at the Rock the Rio finale and the SCUSA Super Nationals, Formula K reigned supreme, winning the headline shifter kart main events. Atlanta Motorsports Park is the North American importer and distributor for the Formula K and Praga chassis, and they have 2020 karts in stock to support new dealers. AMP also has previous year models in inventory available for racers who want a winning chassis at discounted prices of up to 40% off. Contact them directly for pricing and head to atlantamotorsportspark.com/karting to learn more about Formula K, Praga, and AMP's karting program. All right, David Cole, one more event as we stand here on the docket for the EKN Trackside Live Tour for 2020, of course, brought to you by Cooper Tires. October 16th, 17th, 18th, you are getting set to cap things off with the good folks from the United States Pro Kart Series.
Very much looking forward to getting back down to GoPro Motorplex and wrapping up what, excuse me, what is going to be the 8th season for the USPKS. Mooresville, haven't been there all year. Typically we're there by April, if not by June. So it's been an interesting year not to be able to get to GoPro Motorplex. So excited to be there. Excited to see the 7 different championships wrapped up. Got 2 rounds of racing set to go for October 16 through 18, and crowning the 7 different champions for 2020.
Yeah, that's the way we cap off the season for the EKN Trackside Live race, our tour for 2020, brought to you again by Cooper Tires. We hope to obviously head to the Super Nationals as we have every year. I have for the last 23 years in a row. Not going to happen this year. And as we heard on the weekend as well, SCUSA announcing that will not be a replacement race either. So at this point, the USPKS event could be our final race of the year. We'll see what happens in November, December. You know, we have an opportunity to jam another race in there. We'd love to get trackside again. Otherwise, David, that's it. We wrap things up for the CKNI Grand Nationals for 2020.
Excited for what's coming in 2021. We'll wait and see how they announce for their Champions Cup program in 2021 as well. So a number of the competitors that were there this year use that regional program to set their season along with club racing. And then again, we'll see the Briggs and Stratton Weekly Racing Series standings be completed at the end of the month this year as well.
And that caps everything up for this edition of the EKN Debrief. Thank you so much for joining us, EKN Nation, here on the radio network. On behalf of David Cole, my name is Rob Howden. Bye for now.